Here's our Oxy Fuel welding and cutting area down the way here. So just to start off with our welding area for the Oxy Fuel, we do have the regulators up here for the oxygen and the fuel being acetylene. Over here we do have our ball valves that allow the gas to flow through the lines, and when we're not in use we turn them off and we bleed out the lines. Over here we can see this one's been turned off, a little bit of a different ball valve on this side, and when the ball valve is in line with the pipe, that means that'll flow. When it is perpendicular across, that shuts that off. So those hoses come down the center here, and they pop out the bottom and up into this torch here. This torch here is a two-piece torch, so we're able to take the end off here. We can put a cutting attachment on there if we like, or a heating rosebud attachment on there as well. For this one it has a welding and brazing tip on here, and if you look closely at the numbers you can see what number the tips are. These ones are generally a 1. I think I might see a 1 on there, or up here on the copper part, a little hard to see there sometimes, but there is a number on there. For here, these valves here just allow the gas to flow. Again, we do not like to over tighten them, as they're just brass with stainless steel balls that are in there. And we got a holder right here, and our welding table here that we use to put our pieces on, and our fire brick for positioning our piece so we're away from the table. The ventilation turns on here just through the top where the lights are, and the ventilation will turn on at 7:30 in the morning, and then it turns off at the end of the day here for these stations. So here's our welding station. There is a stool for each one. For this one here you will be sitting, and when we're not in the flat position on the tables here, we do have these arms here that allow us to put our piece in this holder, so we can weld in the vertical or horizontal or overhead positions. But just to start off, we'd just be welding in the flat position here. Every second one is closed off just because of the COVID right now. Again, just making sure at the end of the day or in between shifts or breaks that we are shutting these valves and everything off here. It does come up, and there is some main ball valves up top here. So those can be shut off here as well, for these couple extra stations here. Over here we have the cutting area. Same sort of thing here with the regulators. Again, it tells you right on here that it adds or subtracts from the gas flow, and again just the fuel. And this one here we're using a propane for the cutting, and we have the torches here. We do have a, well, that one's locked because of the COVID. This one here, we do have a hanger for that. These ones here are the one-piece torch versus the two-piece that has the attachments here. These are dedicated for cutting only, and then there are different tips that we can get at the end. And again, just by looking you can find a number on there somewhere. These ones here are generally all number 1, and you want to make sure everything's clean and good working order with that. When you're using these torches, we do have a guide here. You can put that on your piece of material as you're doing some cutting, and the tip Just drags along the side there just to allow for a nice straight cut. Do not heat these up, do not cut these, do not cut any of this tool up, because we use this over and over again. And that would be the same as these bars here. So these bars that are in here are removable, and that is so we can get down inside there and shovel and clean all the extra debris that's left behind. So don't cut these bars either, because without these bars we will have nothing to rest our material on. So we rest our material on these grates and we cut across, and yeah, they get a little bit damaged, but they last quite a few years, and after a few years we just replace the bars. So do not be cutting the bars. Also, when you do a little bit of cutting here, this is not a hammer, so if you do not cut all the way through the piece and it doesn't fall off, do not hit this like a hammer. So go get a hammer, go get your chipping hammer, and use the proper tools. So this is just a copper tip on here. If you do bang it, especially when it's warm, you will wreck that tip there, and then we'd have to get a new one. Fairly expensive. We don't want to keep replacing those, and those tips should last a long time. And making sure they're clean before you start to cut will help a lot. When you're done here, just hang it back up onto the hanger here. And same with your cutting guide here. There's a spot for it right there, and just hang it up right there. Okay, that's the cutting area here. Every second one is shut off right now just because of the COVID-19. But there's our cutting area. For material to cut, we do have lots of material outside. We use the scrap material, or we use any material that's on this table here that is used for scrap material that could be reused for welding or cutting. So we do try to find material here to cut. We try not to waste too much material, obviously, because it's expensive. Here's an example here where somebody decided to cut through this tool. So obviously that's probably would not hang up very well. So again, like I said, no cutting anything besides the material you're going to be cutting. So something like this is a piece of material, and we just do generally 1-inch strips along here. Use your soapstone, get a straight edge, have a nice straight line on there, and then you can start by cutting and slicing this up into as many pieces as possible, whether it's just a straight 90-degree cut or you're angling your torch to a 30 or 45 degree. It can be very difficult to cut through something like this with the weld, just because of the double stacking of the material here. Generally does not like to go through the second plate, so a little bit harder to cut. Okay, and that is our cutting area, and again, making sure everything is shut off here when not in use. So safety here always. We don't need any fuel gas spilling out into the shop here and becoming explosive. There is flashback arresters here on the regular side, and these also have the flashback arresters here built right into the torch. So double safety on here for the flashback. Over here we do have the straight line cutting machines. These are known as a track cutter or a radial arm cutting machine, because you can put a bar on here and cut circles with these as well. But this one here is on a track, very easy to use. This one here is in the free position right now. We can flick it up to the drive. We can drive these. This one here just has the torch attached to it, very similar to the other torches, except for here, this is where the cutting stream comes from. When the extra oxygen that comes through is this valve, whereas the other ones are the trigger on the handle there. Now this machine here does have the in and out here. It does have the torch up and down, and this one over here, loosen that, and you can go from different angles on this machine here. To get this machine to drive, we use these switches on the back here, which will drive the motor forward or reverse position, and we can then put this into drive, and we can see this machine is moving. To get it to go faster, we'd use go into more of the high, or reverse it to go into the low. The end of the cut, we would just put this into the free here, and then just turn this machine off over here. This switch. Put it in the middle, turns it off, going up, makes it go in that direction, the direction the button is facing, and you place it this way, and then the machine goes in the direction the switch is facing. So really as simple as that here with this machine. Obviously it's going to guide the torch very, very straight along this track. And again, the same sort of setup over here with our regulators and our ball shut-off valves are all going to be the same. And then all the piping here on the way through is going to be the MAP fuel for this one, and the welding down there was the acetylene. So coming up over here, I see some piping and some main ball valves over here as well. We do have some oxygen fuel carts around the shop. We got about 4 of these. For this one here, we have the propane. We do have ones with the acetylene as well. So for this one here, it is hooked up. It does have a cutting torch on this one. Again, there's just the lever there for the cutting. This one here, the regulars have been left on the bottle. Sometimes they're taken off, and sometimes they're left on. A couple different valves here. This one's got the smart top on it, just for opening up the gas here for this one. We do have a fire extinguisher on the back here. There is a tray for your tools. And with these here, they do run out because it is just one bottle. So you're going to want to practice rolling these bottles around and exchanging these in and out. We do have bottle carts around the shop to bring those out to the bottle area. Those can be rolled out of that cart and onto another cart. Over here we have our pipe beveling stations. We can put a piece of pipe in here. Here's a 6-inch pipe with a bevel on it. And it does a nice job there for beveling that. And we just put these into this machine here. Tighten it up with this key, just like a regular chuck for a lathe. And then we just have this torch here. That again, similar valves as the other track cutting machine. And this one here, we can see there is the ignite and the cutting and the rolling and the different speeds on this one as well. A bunch of different attachments here. So the welders use these for the cutting of their pipe so they can weld up. Over here we have the shape cutting machines here, and this one here, this torch here, there's a magnet and it runs on here, and whatever piece we stick in here, so we can adjust or take that out. I'm just gonna put this back here. We can take this out and put a different shape in here, and this one here is for cutting their coupons out of their pipe in this area. And some of the metal fab shops would maybe have a circle on here, so they'd be cutting circles out of their plate. And again, you just have feed speeds for the torch on here. So we got a couple over here. The shape cutters, the welders usually use those for cutting their coupons out of their pipe. And again, just the same regulators and cutting gas here in our shop. And then outside here, we do have our cutting table here, our outside cutting area. So out here we do have some carts. We're not plumbed in out here. So we do have a cart there. There's generally a track out here and a track cutting machine. We just don't have one here right now. It is the morning, so it just hasn't been brought out for today. At the end of every day, it is brought inside. We do have a power source here for plugging in that track cutter, and then we can just adjust the tracks around here on the tables. Looks like somebody's been doing a bunch of cutting here, so it does a nice job here with cutting. And this extra material on the bottom really just flicks right off here quite easily, so you can see a nice cutting edge through here. And for this one here, it's just going to be speed, nice clean tip, and just cutting material apart here. So looks like we've got some half-inch material, so fairly thick, a little too thick for our shear. And then these tables here, similar to the tables inside, we just have our bars here, so the material doesn't fall through. It's a lot easier than using sawhorses. And when these tables wear out, we build new ones. We cut these ones out and we weld new ones in, but they last 5 to 10 years, so quite a long time. Okay, this is our outside cutting area with our cart. Out here, they just happen to have some acetylene. You can tell this from the black bottle here. Also, it'll say on the other side the acetylene. Also over here, you can see some extra scrap material over here that we use for our cutting. So practice cutting. Right now, there's a lot of pipe in here. We do have a lot of plate in here as well. And we use this old material here for practice cutting. And besides that, we just have our outside